Welcome, everyone, to Stepping Into Your Leadership. I'm your host, Christine Courtney. Our goal here is to give you some actionable takeaways that will help you lead your teams. Thanks for joining us on this leadership journey. Let's get started. Welcome, everybody. I'm here today in the Leadership Summer Studio with Blanca Winkfield and Tom Armstrong back in the house. Welcome, guys. So as those of you who have been listening know, we are continuing our very popular summer series, which is where we give you a short bite of a issue or a problem that some manager has to solve or try to. And we give time for Blonka to give her take on it. We give Tom time to take his take. They can disagree. They can add on. They can wonderfully agree. Whatever happens is totally cool because you at home hopefully are deciding like, how would I handle this issue? After we do that one small issue, then we'll go to a lightning round where we'll try to get as many leadership questions as we could get in 2 minutes. And so far, I think Blonka is in the winning category. I don't know about you, Tom. Have you gotten 3 yet? When you've been
I don't know if I've ever done a complete one. I talk too much. I do my introduction and my answer, and it takes me 2 minutes to do that.
Well, we'll see how we do today. So we'll go through that. So on this one, I'm going to have Tom go first, and then I'll read the scenario. Then Tom, you'll go first, and then Blonka, you can add on after him. All right. You guys ready?
Ready.
All right. So this is a little different this time because this is a conundrum for many managers out there, and because it includes managing up in order to manage successfully down. So here we go. So this is the situation. You're a manager, but your executive team, so those folks above you, have provided vague and inconsistent direction for a major initiative, leaving your team unsure of the project goals and priorities. This lack of clarity is causing confusion and inefficiencies. Communicating the need for clear, consistent guidance from upper management is crucial to ensure your team can execute the project effectively and confidently, but you're not sure how to talk to them about it. So, Tom, how are you going to deal with it?
Well, yeah, it's interesting. I think we talked about this before, that it is always the project manager's job to get the information needed to get it done, no matter, so it is something you can't just go, well, my boss didn't tell me, so I need to know. Okay, there's my preamble, there's my intro. But yeah, so it's essential that you get it. You can't wait on that. So I would just do a very direct approach and let them know. First, I'm going to try to figure out the problem that we're trying to solve in their words and make sure that we're all agreeing on what the actual problem is that we're trying to solve, how they want the world to look when the project is complete, and then figure out what the main requirements are behind it. And just ask them these questions. Sometimes just talking about the problem can help to break through some of that uncertainty, because probably what's causing it is that they don't really have a clear focus on what the problem they're trying to solve is, or they're coming to a solution or the project right away without defining the problem first. So sometimes just coming to them with that question can really open up, and you get a lot of information from that. You can then send them information saying, these are what I think the requirements are. Please confirm, for example.
Okay, so hold on. Because people I get this a lot, like people asking questions about managing up. So that first section where you say, I would just talk to them about, is that an email to all of them? Is that a conversation with one of them?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does that mean? Because I think sometimes even that can seem vague to people, and they're like, I don't know, that's very intimidating. I'm just going to do the best I can with what I got.
Well, yeah, it depends on the company structure. If it's very hierarchical, it's easier. Like I just talked to my boss. But he said it's a whole executive team. Yeah, I'm going to try to figure out who I think would be the first person to talk to, and just try to have a one-on-one phone call, I think, just to keep it from being like a ton of emails where people are doing the cover your ass thing. Like having it be just a very personal call, try to get that first thing, and then ask them, who else do you think I should ask to get this from? That it might not be perfect, but that's how I would approach it.
Okay, Blonka?
Yeah, very similar. My first line of defense would always be to go to the person that I directly report to that's in this scenario. So go have a conversation, say, hey, I think, we're a little confused down here or on this level. What can you do to help me clarify that? Ask them a bunch of clarifying questions. And if it's a situation where, of course, it's not directly their project and they may have to lead you to someone else, say, oh, okay, you're not clear on that, then who do you think I should talk to? Should I talk to Christine? Should I talk to Tati? Because we need you to help us, let us help you kind of situation. We just want to make sure that we're getting everything that you need together and doing it correctly so that, this whole thing succeeds. But right now we're a little, lost in the weeds and need some more guidance. But I'd always start with my direct supervisor and then see who they guide me to, depending upon, who's leading that charge or whatever the issue is.
Yeah. Because definitely don't skip that person.
No.
Because if they find out you called their
You don't
boss,
want to skip.
they get a little
Exactly.
bit nervous about that.
Exactly. Because that's where, and I feel like it's a very rare company where you don't have, as Tom said, that hierarchical structure. It's a very rare company where people are like, oh yeah, just talk, fine. Most people want you to go in that, make those appropriate steps in that way. And your appropriate step for me is always your immediate supervisor. And then let them give you the direction on that.
I would say also that this is probably, I don't know data on this, but that type of company, the hierarchical one, is probably where these issues are going to happen more often than a company that is really project management heavy. So you have a lot of project managers and they're answering to a bunch of different people. They're going to tend to have a much stronger structure in place to make sure that you're just going to get the form that has that on it and the clarity. But the lack of clarity might come from a system where they're not used to doing projects as much. Am I making sense with that?
Well, I think what can happen so often is that in the middle, you feel so squeezed because you've got to try to make things clear below you and you have some understanding. But I think what often happens is that as the executive team, speaking for myself, is that we have talked about this initiative for so much longer than we've put it out to everybody else that we understand it. And so therefore, sometimes when we put it out, we're not as clear as we needed to be because we've had so many internal debates and so forth. So we think that everyone's been there along the journey with us and don't realize that we kind of have to start over from beginning. And I know, Blonka, you're really helpful to me because you go in for clarity over almost anything else, I would say. And like short, crisp, be clear. I'll just talk as I'm demonstrating now until I can get to the point. She'll push me to be like, get to the point faster. What is it? And I think sometimes we need that person in the middle to have the guts to go to their boss, who then hopefully can go to their boss. I mean, that's the problem, right? Is that sometimes in the middle, you don't have the route of communication. You have to really keep trying, like keep going. Okay, if clarity is kindness, and how can I give clarity to my folks? The only way to do it is to get clarity from above. Even if it's like, I think this is what this means. This is what we're doing. Is that correct? So that you can keep pushing them to be like, no, oh my God, no, the main goal is here. But really, companies that have trouble with clarity are about 99% of them, right? So somewhere along the line, it's very helpful to have that person that is pushing you to get clearer and clearer about what your goals are and what you want to do, because then everybody is more aligned.
You're in territory where it's problematic when the project you're given is just a title, without even any direction in the title, but it just says, I don't know, it would be like, bridge, the equivalent of like, make a bridge, it's like, and that often happens because the executive team, like to your point, Christine, it's like that thing, the curse of knowledge, they don't know the extent of their own knowledge and what you don't know. So it's your job to sort of fill in the gap, and it's tough, but you just got to go in there and ask.
Yeah. What I love, though, is what you said, Blonka, about how you put it to them, where you said there's some confusion in the ranks. There's some confusion. Can you help clarify this again for me? That way they go, oh, okay. It's not like you're saying you have done badly
Right.
at this. It's just saying somewhere, it could even be putting the onus on you. Like, I'm having trouble communicating this. Help me out, which is such an easier way to start, such a good in. Because a lot of times people are afraid to go to their boss or their boss's boss because they, there's some fear there, understandably. But I think if you always start with yourself or with how the team is feeling without it being a blame, that opens people up.
And the help me help you. Like, help me help you. Like, what is it that we're really trying to get at here? Because I'm a bit confused, like sometimes, especially in those scenarios, you have to put ego aside. You have to fall on your sword a little bit for your team just to get that information, because a lot of people, I think, don't go upward with the questions because they're afraid of being looked as like, well, how do you not know this already? They think their boss is going to say, well, how do you not know this already? How do you understand that? Can't you get your team together? So they're afraid of those kinds of repercussions. So they just kind of sit stuck in this little bit of like, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap. And then you may put out an edict or instructions to your team that aren't right. And then you end up getting the crap anyway. Like, that wasn't what we wanted anyway. You know what I mean? So you just have to like put the ego aside and just kind of man up and go, be very direct and go, yeah, we're not really getting what you need. Please let us, please help us figure that out. It takes a lot of guts.
It takes guts.
Especially when it's been like, we've had this full day meeting telling you exactly what it is we want you and your people to do, and go make it happen. And then you get back to your desk and everybody's like, what the heck was that? I have no idea what we're doing here. And so now it does take a little bit of, chutzpah to go back in and ask for more clarifying questions. But it's key.
I'm going to go back to what I said at the beginning too. I have found just asking what the problem is, trying to get clarity on the problem, it's annoying for people. That's one of the hard things about asking it up, is that it is kind of annoying because now people have to think a little harder about the project and identify things that have to be identified. You're asking them to do the extra work. But if they can't tell you, often people can't specify what the problem is. And then that's the real problem. So, I try to get that right away. You can't start a solution unless you can identify what the problem is.
Well, and I think too, a lot of times we work with some really big companies where there's lots of levels of management. And sometimes I think new managers make a mistake, especially if you've been part of the rank and file for years and your friends are there and so forth. And then you move up and you're in this situation where there's this major initiative and you guys have to make it happen. And then you realize they come to you and are like, we don't know what was just said. Like, we don't understand. We have no clarity on this. And a lot of times I'll see new managers make the mistake of going, yeah, girl, I don't understand either.
Sure.
Like this, and just kind of roll their eyes, and they think they're helping that person by identifying with them or saying, I feel your pain, but you're actually not, because nothing is moving from that conversation. It's just a complaint desk, really. And I think that's hard to, like you said, you gotta have to grow up in that circumstance and say, even though I don't understand and maybe they don't understand, I need to be the one now to step up and ask more questions, or even in the meetings, ask more questions of clarity,
Yeah, I mean, because in that sense, then, you run into the case of people feeling like it's going to make me look dumb if I ask a question that, in air quotes, I should know the answer to, or I should know. But as you said, in, meetings like that, everybody has the, pre-knowledge of a thing. So you're not expected to know all the things, you're not expected to know what they've talked about at their closed door meetings for the last 2 months. So you may have to ask more questions, even if you internally feel like, oh, if I ask that question, they're going to look at me a certain kind of way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. But it's better than if you're the person, rolling your eyes behind their back. So get it.
Or pretend
We'd
like
rather
you know
have
everything
you
and then
do
going
that.
back to your
So
desk and
ask
like,
them.
I know nothing,
Yeah, and if it's too big a room, like maybe this initiative is rolled out to a huge room and maybe that's just too big for you to raise your hand, and that's okay. Go later and talk to them. I think that's a great idea. All right. Good points, both of you. Thank you for that. All right. We're going to go to a lightning round. Blanca, I'm going to start with you and then go to Tom, and then Tom, you'll get the next question and so forth. All right. You guys ready? They have no idea of these questions ahead of time, so this can be difficult. I know at home you're like, what's taking them so long? All right. Here we go. You guys ready? Blanca, what's a common misconception about leadership?
That it's a cult. And I say that jokingly. I think people think, in general, when you talk about leadership, it's this big mythical thing. Like, you got to be a part of the club. It's like, and it's not that. Leadership happens in very big ways, very small ways. As we say, leadership with a big L, leadership with a small L. Happens every day, all the time, in the tiniest moments. With a company. So, I think people think it's this big mythological thing when it doesn't have to be. And actually, not just doesn't have to be, it actually isn't.
Great. Tom?
That your power comes from your role. And I think that hopefully this is diminishing. There's been lots of books about this, in the past decade. But yeah, that your role power is your strongest power, but it's still your relationship power. And, it just gets more painful, actually, the more you lead. So because you have to always say, you're the one saying I'm sorry when your team makes mistakes or whatever. It's not about your role power.
Okay, awesome. Tom, how do you celebrate your team's success?
Oh, I have to be honest. This is one of my weaknesses. But it's mainly just I notice the things that people do. So I don't do like parties or big, and I think that's important. It's just not I don't do it naturally. The thing that I do naturally is I'm always pointing out to people the things that they're doing right. And so it's like an ongoing thing. Like every day, hopefully I'm celebrating someone's success and saying, I see this thing that you did. Let's figure out a way to broadcast that, because it's amazing.
It's just that Tom's celebration is quite serious, but they do appreciate it. And a lot of people ask me that. How can I celebrate? I'm not that much fun. Just talk to Tom. No, I'm kidding, Tom. You're a lot. You're a lot of fun. It takes about a year.
It takes about a year before people realize I'm not as serious as they think I am.
That's true. Blanca, how do you celebrate your team's success?
It depends on the person. That's one thing I've learned having a team that I've had for a long time. Everybody doesn't like celebration in the same way. Everybody doesn't feel like they need to be celebrated in the same way. Some people like a party. Some people like a quiet pat on the back. Some people like to be left completely alone. Some people like for you to tell other people how great they are and they like to hear it back. So I think the biggest thing is learning what that looks like for each of your team members and how they want to be celebrated. And then once you learn that, then you kind of move into that role.
Awesome. All right, you guys, that's it. We went over 2 minutes. We got 2
Dang it.
questions, but those were some little gems. Thank you, Blanca and Tom, for being with us on the end of our summer series here as we start wrapping it up. We're doing one more next week, so come back next week because we're going to do one more. All right, thank you guys. Have a good
Bye.
one.
See you
Thanks,
guys.
Christine. Bye, Blanca.
Thanks everybody for listening. I'd like to give a special shout out to our podcast producer, Richard Francisco. Check out our notes for any details. And if you get anything out of this, please follow us. And if you enjoy it, please take a moment to rate us or write a comment. It will mean the world to us. We'd love to hear from you. And if you just can't get enough, follow me on TikTok and check out tlpnyc.com/podcast for more information.